still on.
Better?
No, I can't hear anything.
There we go. How about that?
Yes, just thank you. Just something.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Reverend Dr. Marshall Hatch is also here.
Okay, let me please bring him up.
Should be there.
Okay, Pastor Hatch.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? Okay, I just want to make sure that he can. I'm up on Facebook, so let me know when you can hear him, okay? Okay, you should bring down the feed from the radio station so that we can. Okay, very good.
Let me get a few words from Reverend. Yes. Good morning. How are you?
Okay, Robert, can you hear the pastor?
Good morning.
Okay.
Awesome. I can hear everyone loud and clear.
Okay, very good. I was speaking to, I wasn't calling you Robert, just so that you know, I was actually doing that to one of my listeners. And Daryl, how you doing?
We have just 4 minutes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
February 28th for WCPT's Chicago mayoral election night coverage. We'll be giving you the latest updated election results of the Chicago mayor's race for one of the most exciting city of Chicago elections this year. We'll be live from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. with updates and results as soon as they come in from all over the city. Santita Jackson and I will join Patty Vasquez after 7 to check in on the mayoral race and all 50 aldermanic races and the latest updates. WCPT City of Chicago mayoral election coverage is sponsored by Fazio Insurance, an independent insurance agency serving residents and businesses in Will and DuPage County since 1953. Whether you're in the market for a new policy or need to update a policy, their licensed agents are here to help you every step of the way. For more information, contact Paul Fazio at 815-727-2611 or at FazioInsurance.com. People have a craving for traditional agency. They had to be a day. Rapidly, some 2,000 roads DSA wanted to support the process of the website. AmericanEagle.com. AmericanEagle.com architected DSA website integrates multiple third-party systems to create a unified digital experience. Improve data speed and performance, personalized content based on physical location, exclusive online ordering, and increase in organic visibility, and a 40% increase in for scratch savings. To local DSA from DSA.com for website design, development, digital marketing, and hosting, and reduce the business credit from the zone. Visit AmericanEagle.com. DSA is AmericanEagle.com. Another example of the best businesses in the world. Turning to the best businesses. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Or call 877-RED-NOW-1. 877-RED-NOW-1.
Okay, thank you.
All right, stand by.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's a joy to be with you today. Okay, getting a little bit of feedback. Going to work that out. I can't wait to speak with Dr. Willie Wilson and Alderman Sophia King today in the second hour of the show. And the first hour, we will be talking with Dr. David Gibbs from the University of Arizona about what's happening in Ukraine. Our president went to Ukraine. Historic. Our president is never, a president of the United States has never gone into an active war zone. And he had a speech in Poland, and so did President Putin. And so there's just a lot to talk about. Just where are we? What is really going on? And is there a pathway to peace as increasing numbers of Democrats and Republicans are asking for such? This is not just a right-wing issue where people are saying, hey, we have got a real mess in East Palestine or East Palestine, depending upon who you speak to, Ohio. And it's spreading throughout not just that area, but just in the region, because it involves Ohio and Pennsylvania. And we will just see what's going on there. They need more than $1 million from a $53 billion company. So we've got to talk about that. Now they've got to set up a health clinic because people are sick. Wildlife are dying. Farmland, which is what we do in this part of the country, has been polluted. For how long? We're going to be talking about that as we go forward during the days. But we got this mayoral election that comes up on Tuesday. You can vote in all 50 wards. Everyone, please get out and vote. Get out and vote. The voter interest has been high. As of just a couple of days ago, only 2,500 people plus had voted 4 years ago at this point in the race. Now more than 40,000, and that was just days ago. So people are very engaged in this race, which is why we have sought to have just about everybody on. And so I'm reaching out to Mayor Lightfoot. I've done that, and reached out to Congressman Garcia and Brandon Johnson, Commissioner Johnson. We will have him. He's already consented. And so I'm just have 3 more to get so that you can hear what they have to say. We thank Mr. Vallis for extending his time. And I did something unusual yesterday. I have given each one of these candidates 30 minutes. But because of your demand, because of the questions that you wanted to ask, because he's been in public quite so long, he ended up staying with me for 90 minutes. An hour on the air, 30 more minutes off air. And so that was very unusual. But, you really do have the control here. And that's what I try to let you all know. You all have the power. You have the power. So let's talk with Alderman Sophia King today. She says she wants to represent more than the segregated parts of Chicago. Indeed, Chicago on paper has been the most segregated big city in the United States. And we want to talk with Willie Wilson about law and order and the connection between that and the murder of his son nearly 30 years ago. So let's get right to it, everybody. On the Santita Jackson Show, we have got boy, oh boy, it has been an active time. We are praying for our brothers and sisters at AM 950 Radio in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Of course, I'm coming to you. My home base is WCPT 820 here in Chicago, the largest progressive talk radio station, but the voice of Minnesota, progressive Minnesota. They are Chad Larson and all my brothers and sisters up there, Gary Hines and Reverend Spike and Reverend McAfee, all these people, they are looking at 2 feet of snow in Minneapolis, St. Paul alone. That's right, 35 degrees and rain here in Chicago, but a winter storm warning. It has been snowing for the past couple of days. By the time it's all over, they expect to have at least 2 feet of snow in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Let's pray for them, everybody. The All-Star break is not over yet in NBA basketball, but perhaps on Friday night, the Timberwolves will be facing the Hornets. We don't know. Certainly the Nets will be facing the Bulls. In the NHL, Chicago 3, the Golden Knights 2, and the Wild 2 and the Kings 1. Great night for the Chicago and Minneapolis teams. In the headlines that you might not see, California U.S. Representative Barbara Lee has thrown her hat into the ring. She will be running for Dianne Feinstein's seat. Virginia has elected its first African American woman to the U.S. House of Representatives. State Senator Jennifer McClellan, congratulations to her by an overwhelming margin, 68 to 32%. And Malcolm X's daughters, Kubila and Ilyasa, will be suing the FBI, the CIA, the New York Police Department for $100 million for their role in the death of their father. I am going to reach out to them and seek to get them on because I'm so glad that they're going to do that, because all of these entities and more were involved in the assassination of that great man. So those are just a few of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. We have got with us today Pastor Marshall Hatch, founder of the Sankofa Wellness Project, of course, the new Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church here in Chicago, Illinois. We need some good news today. I'm so glad that you're here to give it to us. What's the good news, Pastor Hatch?
Good morning, Santita, and good morning to the radio audience. At the top of the morning, with a few days that we have left with African American History Month, of course. Every day is African American history because African American history is simply history. And so I wanted to just honor one of the ancestors, Dolores S. Williams is her name. She just passed away in November of last year. A woman theologian who has given us challenged us in a way of reading the scripture by hearing the voices that we often overlook. And so one of the patron saints of the woman and theologian is a woman by the name of Hagar in the Old Testament. And her son Ishmael, Hagar the slave. And so I'm going to just talk about her story briefly. And this is from my devotional that I do for 40 days. And this one is called Seeing the God Who Sees Me, which is the story of Hagar, in honor of Dr. Dolores Williams, the woman and theologian. And Hagar's story, Hagar the slave, and her son Ishmael may not be important to others, but clearly Hagar and her son are important to God. Others may not see Hagar's pain and Ishmael's predicament, but God does. God always notices people that others overlook. It seems that Hagar is not a central part of this story. This story looks to be just a story about Abraham and Sarah. They're the central characters for the scribes. But in the middle of the story, we hear from Hagar. She is a slave woman who receives a promise from the Lord in the midst of being mistreated by Abraham and Sarah. When God sees Hagar, he gives her son Ishmael the prophecy of a promising future. Hagar names God in a way that no one else does in Scripture. She calls God a God who sees me. He says, I looked for God only to discover that God was looking at me too. Beloved, always know that you are not forgotten by God. God sees you too. God sees your struggle. God sees how you're treated by others who have abused their power over you. Every time we look at Jesus on the cross, we are reminded that God identifies with everyone who has been overlooked by others. Your confidence is restored every time you look for God, and are reminded that God has never taken God's eye off of you. As God watched over Hagar and Israel in the midst of a story that was not even about them, rest assured that the Heavenly Father is watching over you as well. Bless God, seeing the God
Amen. Amen. I needed that this morning, and I know someone else needed that this morning. God sees you. You are never alone. God neither sleeps nor slumbers. You are not alone. God sees you. Thank you for that. Today, we needed that. We needed that. How could we worship with you on Sunday, Pastor?
We're at the New Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church in Chicago, Missionary Baptist. That's 4301 West Washington Boulevard on the great west side of Chicago in Santita village of West Garfield Park.
Wellness. Wellness. Wellness is the golden Sankofa. And we just thank God for you to be well personally, and for the village to become well, and for the country, for the world to become well. Indeed, that is where we would go if we would but change our thoughts. Love you so much. Give my love to the First Lady and to your wonderful family. I just love your family. They're wonderful, wonderful people, which is such a reflection of you and your wife. God bless you.
God bless. Have a great day.
Absolutely. Thank you for that word. Wow. The God who sees me. Everybody, we have got Dr. Shanina Knight, an infection preventionist, with us today. And we have been talking about these environmental disasters that are occurring all around us. They're not getting a lot of publicity. And certainly what's happening in East Palestine, or East Palestine, Ohio, and I have to think of it biblically. I think that's why I just continue to call it Palestine. Uh, it is a story that should be getting much, 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 much more traction. It should be getting much, much, much more publicity than it's getting. Many people are calling it the Chernobyl of the United States. It is that profound an issue. And the people of East Palestine do not feel that they're being paid adequate attention. Think about it. Norfolk Southern, the company whose trains derailed, and they were carrying the chemicals that spilled all over, not just East Palestine, but throughout the region, between two states at the very least. And if you see the mushroom cloud, when you look at the aerial photographs, you see this is really massive, and it's really, really, this is bad. They've been told, the EPA administrator and the governor of Ohio went and drank some water from the tap. You know what? I wouldn't do it. I'm telling you, Dr. Knighton, I wouldn't even think about it. That water is not safe. I was watching Twitter, where so many of us get our news, and I get my news from a lot of different sources. This man said, let me tell you what's going on here. And he went to a creek, Dr. Knighton, and he stuck a pole, and the creek, the water looked pristine and clear. You could see straight to the bottom, just, maybe not even maybe 6 or 7 inches of water. But then he poked the soil, and this fizzing came up out of the soil. It was as if they dropped Alka-Seltzer in the water. And, oh my gosh. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying? I mean, when you hear anecdotally, people are very scared, and they're seeing a lot of things that are frightening to them. And so just drinking water from the tap, that's not it. That's not it. And they're now setting up clinics in the area because people have been complaining. They've been complaining of headaches, nausea, at the very least. One man even was on social media. He said, my skin is melting. Who would tell a falsehood about that? So talk to me. What are the things that these people are really too poor to move? What would you advise them to do? And quite frankly, most of us, we're all but we are a blink away from dealing with something like this ourselves. The railway system runs straight through the United States of America. They carry a third of our goods. Anything can happen anywhere at any time. What would you advise people to do if they are facing an environmental disaster? I know we talked about this yesterday, but I just think that it is so important that we know that we kind of drill into our minds, Dr. Knighton, what it is that we need to be doing.
Good morning. So, Santita, that's the thing that's always
I would say, perplexing about anything. And that's the fact that we can always talk about what we would do until we're in that situation. And then that's when things are different, because things are different, right? When you're actively living something such as that. So the problem is like, advice that I would give in some regard, I still believe it comes from a place of privilege, unfortunately, you know, and that when you tell somebody like, hey, use bottled water for this, you think about those individuals that don't even have transportation to even get around, to get out of the town, to be able to go to the next town, to be able to get the resources that they need, which makes it very challenging to tell somebody to clean their water, right? And long story short, or boil their water, but your water is, but the ground is fizzing up, right? Which means that you potentially boiling the water means that it could potentially be putting more chemical fumes in the air, which could be making you more sicker. So in this particular instance, even when it comes to their water, I don't have any recommendations to give, unfortunately. And I know that I'm always never at a loss for words, but it's like without truly understanding why the soil is fizzing, right? Without understanding why their water is burning the esophagus of the individual, and everyone knowing that those chemicals that was associated with that crash or that derailment is what's causing the issues, right? Or that explosion, however we choose to classify it, it's a tragedy. And that's the problem right there, is that if we could say that FEMA was approved, or individuals were approved, you know, to receive, let's say, these emergency funds and emergency resources, then I could assume that the water is there, bottled water is there for them to be able to take their medications, for them to make sure that they're rationing it out. But that part about it is we can't even guarantee or can't even solidify if they have the basic necessities for them to be hydrated. And that's that part about it. And so it makes it very challenging to talk about what they would do. But for those of us that are watching this with empathy, that can sympathize with it, because one day we recognize that, or at any point, just as you mentioned, none of us are excluded or off limits from something like this happening. What do you do to prepare? And when you say what do you do to prepare, it makes sure that you do have, water. I encourage people to keep water. I also encourage people, it sounds crazy, but keeping, a heating plate or keeping some sort of cooking dish with, the burning fires up under it, like the 6-hour shaping oil, to be able to heat something up. If you have a fireplace, making sure that you're keeping wood. So there's things that you can do that are survival tactics in a situation of where you cannot move. And that is something that is likely for people, is that they cannot move out of their situation when they are in a situation such as this. We know that air travels, and so unfortunately, when you are dealing with toxic air, how do you handle that? And there's no easy way. You want to go tell someone like, hey, well, maybe, masking will help. I can't tell anyone that, because in this particular instance, I'm sure some of those fumes have the capability to be able to see through. So it's a really tough situation to be in. When someone, let's say, has a natural disaster or an emergency disaster, it affects different things, and so it's not a one-size-shoe-fits-all. But the one thing that we know for sure is food, shelter, and water and safety are the 4 things we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of living that are some of the most important essentials. And so how do you make sure that you answer those questions in a situation of emergency? Do I have food, shelter, water, and safety? And answering those questions as the 4 essentials is something that we should all be focusing on and thinking about. Am I prepared to have these things if I was to face an emergency situation? Understanding tornadoes and things like that can threaten shelters? Do you have a backup plan? Is there a contingency plan with another family member should something like that happen that you know we're getting ready to go to? Do you have some sort of emergency response system where you and your loved ones are going to meet up in certain locations if something happens and everyone ends up displaced? So there's just really things that we need to think through that we tend to take for granted because we may think that we're exempt from some of these tragedies happening, but we're not.
No,
Similarly, just like I mentioned yesterday, Santita, with Warren, Ohio, there being a water boiler explosion, and then we turn around in Bedford, Ohio. I don't know what's going on with Ohio lately, Santita. I guess that's my point.
Mm-hmm.
But another explosion at a plant at a metal plant. So a metal plant, a boiling plant, and now we have this train all in Ohio, literally within the last 5 months.
Well, you know what? I mean, the American infrastructure, first of all, the braking system for our trains is 160 years old. It comes from the Civil War era. So there's that. Anyone who's been out the country, or if you just go on and Google, go to YouTube and look at trains from outside of the United States, we have an antiquated system. And it's not the fault of the workers. It's the fault of these corporations that make money hand over fist, and they do no reinvestment in our country. They do no reinvestment in the railway system. They don't pay the workers enough, and on and on and on. And now we have this mess. And you have a $53 billion company that's going to put $1 million, just a little bit over $1 million, into a fund for these thousands of people who've been impacted by this. Shame on you, Norfolk Southern. Shame on you. And shame on us if we don't fight back. You deserve much. You don't just deserve better. You deserve to be treated correctly. Not better, correctly. You deserve to be treated right. Think about that, everybody. This is not right. One of these substances that has been pushed into the air causes liver cancer. And I can't hear that in corporate media. Shame on corporate media for underreporting this story and underreporting the danger facing this community. Let's talk about Ukraine when we come back on the Santita Jackson Show. What's really happening there? Back in just a minute. You know, I am so done. You know me. You know, I get hot when I think about this stuff, girl. This is terrible.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I'm like, are you serious right now? Oh my gosh, this is terrible.
I agree. Like, I mean that just because, again, when this comes with some sort of like manual whatsoever, and it's happening, and it is in so many ways. I don't know. People get numb to stuff like this, and that's the unfortunate part.
I just think what they're doing is shameful. But we can't take this either. This is crazy. Crazy.
Good morning, Michelle.
Yes.
Dr. Gibbs and
Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Dr. Gibbs, how are you?
Good morning, Santita.
It's wonderful to have you with me today. We have a lot to talk about. I'm gonna have to abbreviate this a little bit. We're gonna go until 10 minutes of. We have our mayoral election on Tuesday. It looks like we're going to have a runoff, but it is one of the most contentious races that we've had in years. Quite frankly, it's just, I mean, we don't know who's going to be in the runoff. I mean, there's just more people have voted than have voted, in years. But no one knows what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen. But this is so important to me too. So it's a lot happening at one time.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm going to give this to you. No. I mean, there's more for. I mean, I could have you on every day to talk about this, and I could, because I think it's think it's such a big deal. Okay, thank you. How much time do we have, hon?
2 minutes.
Okay. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry, I'm writing. Chaparral, how are you this morning? Chaparral?
Great, Santita. Thank you.
No, thank you. And you can say hello to Dr. Gibbs.
Good morning, Dr. Gibbs.
Good morning, Chaparral.
Okay, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm writing something. City. Okay. Okay.
30 seconds.
Okay.
That's your next in there.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show, WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, up there in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Chad Larson and everyone, I'm thinking of you today. They are looking at 2 feet of snow in Minneapolis, St. Paul alone, inches of ice. Oh, please pray for our brothers and sisters in Minneapolis, St. Paul. They need it, and so do we, because we are all but a second away from something like this happening to us, too. We have got Chaparral, our girl here, Celebrations by Us, but she has a big event coming up at the beginning of March. What's going on, Chaparral?
Good morning, Santita. And yes, we are hosting our Courtney Copeland Memorial Foundation Gala at the JLM Community Center, and that's 2622 West Jackson in Chicago. And we're actually hosting our annual gala to raise funds for our college scholarship fund. So if you would like to come, please give us go to our website at www.copelandmemorial.com, www.copelandmemorial.com, and you can purchase your tickets there. If you can't personally attend, we're asking everyone to please support the foundation by inviting and purchasing a ticket for a family who has lost a child. So please visit www.copelandmemorial.com. We look forward to seeing you. Thank you so much, Santita.
Oh, blessings to you. We have got Dr. David Gibbs, historian from the University of Arizona, who's been talking to us about Ukraine and about what got us into this war and maybe pathways to peace. Not Rand Paul, but Ron Paul, former Congressman Ron Paul, and former Congressman Dennis Kucinich, and activists and citizens from the so-called right and the so-called left. Yes, I did say that, because people's political affiliations or political beliefs are much more nuanced than Democrat and Republican. More and more Americans are calling themselves independent, and I get it. That having been said, they got together this weekend, thousands of them, on the Mall in Washington, D.C. They said, we don't want no more blank checks to Ukraine. We have got things we've got to take care of here in the United States, and we need peace. So And now that we look up and our president was in Ukraine in an active war zone, hearing the sirens going off. Wow. And he's digging in his heels. Wow. Dr. David Gibbs, you got to help us to understand what we're looking at.
The situation is that, the public is growing increasingly tired of the war. The polls show that very clearly. You are getting declining support for American engagement with this war and the costs it's imposing upon the economy and on people's living standards. And the fact that it doesn't seem to be headed towards any kind of resolution or with any even clear strategy. The public is getting tired of that. But at the political level, at the elite level, at the level of the media, you're not getting any real discussion or any debate. There seems to be an allergy to any kind of open debate on this question, even about things like who blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, for example, in Baltic Sea. And in the absence of that debate, you are starting to get finally some activity on the street, so to speak, in the form of this public gathering and demonstration in Washington, D.C., the Rage Against the War Machine, which is a combination of sort of libertarian right-wing groups and traditional anti-war left-wing groups. It's a combination of both. And I suspect this kind of anti-war activity is going to finally start to grow. It's been long overdue. We really haven't had any significant anti-war movement in this country in a long time. But I think it's going to rejuvenate an anti-war movement here and also in Europe. We're starting to get elements, particularly in Germany, that are starting to raise questions about Germany's involvement in this war as well. So this could be the start of a transatlantic anti-war movement, what you're seeing now.
Let me ask you about this. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you something here, because when you listen to corporate media right now, they say that basically they imply, and you have to infer, that the only people who want this conflict to end, or certainly our involvement in it to end, are people who are the so-called far right-wing MAGA voters, which is really disparaging to them. I'm like, well, these people have interests. And for them, former President Trump is a torchbearer of sorts, and they have the right to have that. But it's not that simple. It's not that simple. It's not just right wingers. Please, you and I have been talking about this since the beginning of the conflict. In this now, this is just, we don't need another war.
I mean, you do have a situation where, yes, you're getting both people on the left and on the right opposing the war. And there seems to be an effort by people like Rachel Maddow to sort of disparage this as just kind of a far-right issue. That's really kind of a strange thing historically, because anti-war historically has been a most overwhelmingly left-wing issue. And the idea that it's now being characterized as far-right just seems very strange to me if one looks at it. It is nevertheless true. You do have people on the right, like Ron Paul, the most prominent of them, who clearly are anti-war. And so you do have, what you have had since the end of the Cold War has been the emergence, for the first time in my lifetime, the emergence of an anti-war libertarian right wing, and that has merged with the anti-war left. And it is clearly both right now. I would have to say, though, that there are elements on the left that have been somewhat derelict on this issue. I'm thinking particularly of Amy Goodman and Democracy Now!, which used to be very anti-war. Mm-hmm. And now they're giving hardly any coverage at all to this anti-war demonstration. Mm-hmm. And, Amy Goodman seems to be virtually indistinguishable from, CNN or MSNBC or, the mainstream media on this. Democracy Now! Has sort of lost a lot of its sort of anti-establishment credibility, particularly on this issue, I would say. And so I think one of the things you have had, I have to say, I'm very disappointed in Bernie Sanders that he hasn't really taken a strong stand on this issue against war. He hasn't done that. The squad, people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, have not done so. And so clearly there is an issue here. I have to say I'm embarrassed about this, but I just listened to a speech by Donald Trump where he denounced what he called the warmongers and so on. And, let me say frankly, I don't like Donald Trump. I'll just get that on the table here. And it's sort of embarrassing to me That we have to hear that from Donald Trump. Why can't we hear that from somebody like Bernie Sanders or AOC? I think that there is a risk here.
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what the gripe is with Russia. I mean, I really don't, you guys. I don't get it. I don't get it. And the fact is, we change up bad guys and bad girls all the time. Deborah is saying Putin must stop war crimes. Keep supporting Ukraine people. That's what we're doing. Or other countries will fall under more fascism around the free world. Stop MAGA and both sides. Please speak to that.
Well, there's a shred of evidence that Russia has intentions of invading any country beyond Ukraine. There's just isn't a shred of evidence of that. And people have noted that the Russian military has underperformed here. Russia doesn't have the capability to invade any other countries. There isn't the slightest chance of Russia invading, Poland or Moldova or, the Baltic states. That's just a fantasy. And there's no evidence they want to, and they certainly don't have the capability to do so. So I just think that's a wildly overstated claim here. This is basically an issue from Russia's standpoint of security about their borders. Countries are very worried about insecurity on their borders, and they're reacting. This doesn't justify anything, by the way, because in spite of this, Russia should never have invaded. That was a terrible thing to do. But it is true. Had the United States faced a similar situation in Mexico, had Russia been setting up bases in Mexico, there is no doubt the United States would have been willing to use invasion as a response to that. That is history of the United States in the Caribbean region. And Mexico leaves no doubt the United States is perfectly ready to use military force against its neighbors when it sees the slightest threat. That is what Russia was doing in terms of invading Ukraine. Again, that doesn't justify it, but that just puts it in the context that that is what major powers do when they're threatened on their borders. And I think it was a very big mistake of the United States to have promoted that threat, which is what the United States did. That was totally unnecessary, and this whole war could have been avoided and should have been avoided.
We're talking with Dr. David Gibbs about Ukraine. What about the president is digging in his heels? Mark Hay says, I'm not ready to get on the anti-war bandwagon, even though I do see the profit motive on both sides for the war. Russia's not making money off the war. They're not, Mark. I mean, we're making money off the war, and European countries are accusing the United States of being warmongers and war profiteers. That's our reputation in Europe now, which is part of the reason that the peace movement is about to take off in Europe. Because they're growing tired of us too, because they want, am I reading this incorrectly? This is what I've been reading in different press reports, Dr. Gibbs.
No, that's my impression is that you have a long overdue peace movement that is finally starting to emerge on both sides of the Atlantic. And I think it's inevitable, just given the fact that it's not only a foreign policy issue, it's a domestic issue. It is lowering living standards in the United States and even more in Europe and worldwide. It's raising food prices, including in very poor countries where a lot of people can't afford food. This is a devastating effect on the whole world economy. And the sooner we can end it, the better. And there were peace talks. We now know there were peace talks between Ukraine and Russia that were making a lot of progress. And the United States and Britain torpedoed them. We've heard that from multiple sources. Most recently, a former Israeli prime minister who was involved in mediation indicated that, outside countries, almost certainly meaning the United States, were opposed to these peace talks and sought to block them. And, we could have had probably a peace settlement of this months ago. But what we need now, basically, is some sort of compromise settlement, if that can be achieved. And in any case, the United States needs to cease military aid to Ukraine. Yes, that needs to be done, in my view.
Well, just what should we read in these last couple of minutes? What should we read into the president's trip, and what is the path forward? Where is all of this going?
Well, the president's trip, I didn't really see anything, at least in the public record, indicating there's anything more than a kind of campaign-style stop to present the president of the United States in heroic terms to press adulation, which is what you had. My guess, unfortunately, what I think this is very likely more likely than not, is going to be settled in the battlefield, because I think the military situation probably does favor Russia. There's an artillery war, and they have overwhelming preponderance of artillery. They have far more artillery, not just than Ukraine, but than the United States has. And based on that, my guess is that they're more likely than not to win on the battlefield. And that would be a very bad outcome that they win on the battlefield, but I think that's the more likely outcome, because I think all avenues to peace have been blocked. And I think the best thing the United States can do is simply to disengage, encourage the Ukrainians to salvage what they can.
You know what? I want you just in the last couple of minutes here. TJ, as he said, ask your guest to talk about the Budapest Memorandum, where Ukraine gave up its nukes in exchange for Russia agreeing to never invade them. So speak to that, please.
Well, they did. There's no doubt. Russia violated the Budapest Agreement. I think it was 1994, if I'm not mistaken, in which it's part of a larger comprehensive deal. But yes, Russia agreed. Ukraine agreed to give up its nuclear weapons, which, by the way, they didn't control. They were on Ukrainian territory, but the launch codes were still in Moscow. They had a centralized chain of command. But they did give up their nuclear weapons. They were dismantled. And Russia agreed not to invade the country. Clearly, they violated that. I should add, Russia violated all sorts of international agreements against the use of force, including the United Nations Charter. There's no doubt it was an illegal invasion. On the other hand, that does not excuse the United States for provoking the invasion, which is what the United States undoubtedly did. Does not excuse the United States for violating its agreement not to expand NATO, which the United States made in 1990. So it seems to me both sides here are at fault, and I would say if any side has a greater responsibility for this, it was the United States, because this all began with America's decision to violate its agreement not to expand NATO, and expand it again and again and again and again needlessly, and it provoked the war. So neither side should be let off the hook here, in my view.
Dr. David Gibbs. Well, you know, is there anything that we should be looking out for over the next few days? Because I was hoping that peace would be on the horizon. And as you said, there were, as has been reported, it's not just what you said, as has been reported, there were peace negotiations that were meeting some success. But it was the United States and Great Britain who said, no, scratch that. You all need to continue to fight. I think that's important, because they had Boris Johnson, the former British Prime Minister, on television last night making that argument. You got to continue to fight. Fight whom and for what? Dr. Gibbs.
Well, the United States and Britain, as far as I can tell, have no real strategy here. There seems to be a fantasy that they can defeat Russia and that Putin will be overthrown and put on trial, and maybe the Russian Federation will break up. No, we're talking about a country here that is 1,500 active nuclear warheads, and pushing Russia to that extent is an excellent chance that would lead to nuclear war and the obliteration of the human race. And there's nothing that is worth that risk, in my view. And it's extremely reckless that British leaders and American leaders are sort of, engaging that risk and willing to take it and gambling with everybody's lives on the planet here, and they have no right to do that. I think that what's ignored about this is Putin remains a popular leader. He's been since the year 2000, when he first came to power. Very popular. I'm not sure he deserves that popularity, frankly, but nevertheless, he is popular, and all the indications point to the fact that he has had no significant erosion in his popularity. The United States was counting on the Russian economy to implode. I think that was the original strategy. And that's clearly failed. The Russian economy has not imploded. It's still very much functioning. And unfortunately, I think all the indications are militarily, Russia is likely to be on track to win outright on the battlefield. That's a terrible outcome, and it should have been solved through diplomacy. But unfortunately, that door may have been closed several months ago. So the outcome of this could very well be a very bloody conclusion with a Russian victory. That is the most likely scenario short of nuclear war, I would say.
Dr. David Gibbs. Dr. David Gibbs, you know, I will have you back on, if not tomorrow, certainly the next day, because we need to continue to talk about this to see, because we've spent $100 billion. We've committed that. And and without even asking, we continue to give them more and more money. And the people of East Palestine, Ohio, yes, they are getting $1 million plus from a corporation worth $53 billion. Think about that, everybody. Think about it. It's not a false choice. We don't have endless money. Think about that. Dr. David Gibbs, thank you so much for being with us today. You know, we have got this mayoral election, and Dwight McKee wanted to get a few words from you. Today, we're going to have Alderman Sophia King. She brought a lot of energy into this campaign, talking about wanting to serve Chicago, not just the segregated part. She has a holistic approach to crime and to schools. And then Dr. Willie Wilson, who has deep roots in the Black community, the cash giveaways, the gas giveaways. But more than that, there's a great empathy that he has with the Black community. And he has a real constituency there. They're going to be our guest today. So your thoughts about Alderman King first, and then Dr. Wilson.
Morning.
Good morning. Talk to me.
I have positive thoughts about both of them. I think that Ms. King is a breath of fresh air. A little new to the game, and so she does not have a lot of skepticism or the history that a lot of these politicians have. So she's not been a professional politician per se, and seems to have a real grasp of the issues. So I think that she has a real future. This may not be a time, but I think she has a real future in politics. Willie Wilson is a little more interesting in that he has so many resources and he is available to run whatever he wants to run for. It's just it's a little seems to be a little out of focus in terms of what he really wants to be and who he really wants to be. When you run from one office to another office, people tend to take you a little less seriously, even with his resources. And so I'm hoping that, at some levels, he kind of decides what he wants to become and focuses on that and invests his resources not just in what he wants to do, but I think he can be a tremendous power broker because of his resources, and identify those other politicians who have a real bright future and can make an impact and invest in their careers. I think he can be as much of a power broker as he could be a candidate if he decides to go in that direction.
What do you think about his stance on the police? He too is a law and order candidate, just like Paul Vallis. He wants to suspend the entrance exams for the Chicago police. He wants to give them more space. That is to say, if they make a mistake, they should not be held liable. He said sometimes police officers make genuine mistakes. And I think to contextualize him, we have to really do understand that his son was murdered in 1995. So he suffered the heartbreak that is every parent's worst nightmare and fear, that something would happen to their child. And so I'm sensitive to that. That having been said, he's taken a real tough stance with the police. That is to say, very, very supportive. How will that play out? I've got about 2 minutes, Dwight.
I think it's terrifying. I think he gives the police carte blanche. And, and I don't think that you could make your tragedy the policy of a police force that tends to run amok when it's given that kind of attitude. And I think it's very, very, very dangerous. I'd like to see if he ties in the accountability for them and his position on immunity and his position on the blue flu, which we've experienced, I think, for the last 3 or 4 years. He should be so pro-police that he almost comes across anti-community, and it almost contradicts his position on pro-community, because you have all polarity going. You have this contradiction between the police force, which tend to be very aggressive, particularly when it comes to communities of color, and the community will keep it victimized by those same police. And so I think that if he was not so anti-police, he'd have a much better relationship in terms of support for the Black community. I like to see from Ms. King her position, not just on the police, but on community development. I like to know if she to put a fee on the mercantile and the border trade and those resources that the majority community have taken advantage of over the years at the expense of people in the city. And they've had scot-free opportunity to make money without recourse. I think it would help us with the property taxes. I think it would help us with education. I think it would help us with the pension funds. If you was to look at the transaction fee or transaction tax. I really like to know what a position that is.
Well, because many people don't even think about the Mercantile Exchange, and the Chicago Board of Trade, but they figure very prominently in our city. Indeed, it is really at the center of world finance, everybody. Dwight McKee, noted social scientist. And we're going to have Alderman Sophia King up in just a few minutes. And right after we speak with her, Dr. Willie Wilson. What will they say? What do they bring to this race? We'll see in a minute on the Santita Jackson Show. All right, Dwight McKee, thank you so much. Woo.
One bank robber say you rob banks because that's where the money is. And I think that's why we should be looking at passing the work in the tree, because that's where the money is.
Well, there's no question about that. No question about that. No question. Okay, well, you know what? I'm sorry, I got to push on because I got to pull something up here. But thank you, Dwight. Let me get this up.
Thank you.
No, thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Okay, let me get this.
I'm expecting the Alderman Sophia King's on and ready to go.
Okay, thank you so much. Alderman King, hi, oh, you sound loud and clear. Now, is it Alderman or Alderwoman? Because I've been told it's Alderman. Which do you prefer?
Either one is fine. Alderwoman is fine.
Okay, no. Just
both have a man and a
no, it's just like, give me the preference, please, because I'm like, I just want to get it right. That's all. Okay.
I hear you.
That is.
I don't get hung up on the title.
Okay. Well, no, I know, but your preference is older woman, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. No, that's perfectly fine. Thank you so much for switching the time, for being with us today.
Yeah, no problem. Up and at 'em.
Oh, well, girl, you're up and at 'em anyway. You got a family, okay?
Yeah, Yeah.
You are up and at 'em anyway. Oh, how are they doing?
Family's good. After she done doing really, especially my grandkids. They're town, so I don't see them as much as I'd like. So
It's just,
try and FaceTime with them every day.
it's just hard to believe. It's just hard to believe. It's hard to believe.
That I have grandkids?
Yeah. I mean, it's just for me. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Definitely.
I'm like,
The babies.
when did this happen? Like, whoa. Ooh.
COVID.
Yeah.
COVID had a lot of silver lining.
Yeah.
My grandkids were one of them.
Bless your heart. I'm like, wow, she got great. What? Ellen got kids? And then grandkids? What? But I'm happy for you both.
Oh, no, I'm super happy about that. They were a lot of joy.
Wow. Bless your heart. Okay, let me get
Yeah,
this.
so you guys didn't like talking about her.
What?
We're gonna leave with
Well,
my
just I think why you're running, I think is important. Well, we can open or close with that. Oh, we can open and then close with that. I think it works for me, to be honest with you.
Okay.
It works for me. And then, and then to go to your holistic approach to running for office. I think that's important. I mean, to the city, very, very few people mention segregation and Chicago, and you have done that. And, wanting to represent all of Chicago, I think that merits some attention, and, in your own way, I think you have looked at not just crime, but you look at schools, which is school closures, which is, education, in the Black community. I was saying the other day, I said, for us, education is loaded, because it was illegal for us to learn how to read. So when you deny Black people access to education, when you close our schools and our names are on it, it is, it's devastating, so, and I think that you hit upon that, and I'd like to give you an opportunity, to really explore that, because you can't, when you look at an explosion of crime and you look at the denial of access to monies, you have a lot of people who have a lot of talents, Alderwoman King, and I will, just for the purposes of this conversation, you're not Sophia, you're Alderwoman King. And I would do that with my brother. If he were on, he would be Congressman Jackson, although that drives him nuts when I do that.
Right.
But, I respect the office and I respect what you're doing. And even when you leave, you'll always be Alderwoman King because you keep that handle. That having been said, I just think that there's a lot going on here. There's a lot,
For sure.
and I think that as a mom, men and women have different approaches to problem solving, and that's not bad. It's not. I mean, we complement each other, and I think that you have that kind of approach. Like, well, wait a minute, let's step back, let's dig down in this, and I've seen my parents do it. I've seen, the dynamics of men and women when we step back and say, well, wait a minute, there's something else going on here. I can just feel it.
We have to lean into some of our talents that kind of help define us as women. And I think we try to do what other people are doing, and that's not necessarily using our gifts.
Absolutely.
Propel us forward. Because we do have a lot of gifts, and we need to lean into them. That women are nurturers and collaborative. We're not multitaskers.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we have to do. Stand by. Here we are. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, sending much love to our brothers and sisters at AM 950 radio. As they look at Snowmageddon, 65 million people across the country are looking at harsh weather conditions. Indeed, in Minneapolis, St. Paul, you're expecting, by the time this 3-day snow event is over, up to 2 feet of snow. Wow. How many people will be snowed in? Will there be adequate resources to get you taken care of? Certainly, we are praying for you today, and we just want you to get through this event. All 65 million of us, everybody. I'm Santita Jackson. We are days away from the election of a new mayor in Chicago. Will we have a winner on Tuesday, or will we have a runoff on April 4th? Well, two of the people who would be mayor are with us today. Alderwoman Sophia King and Dr. Willie Wilson. They will be with us in just a couple of minutes. In Chicago, we'll have a high of 35 degrees, rain today. Minneapolis, St. Paul, the winter storm, 23 degrees and snow. The NBA All-Star break is not quite over yet, but on Friday, the Nets will be facing off against the Bulls and the Hornets will be facing off against the Timberwolves. In the NHL, Chicago 3, the Golden Knights 2, and the Wild 2, and the Kings 1. Aside from this snow event and the president still in Poland in that part of Europe, Congresswoman Barbara Lee is running for the U.S. Senate. She has cast her hat in the ring. She is seeking to seize the seat of retiring longtime senator from California, Dianne Feinstein. Virginia elected its first Black woman to the U.S. House of Representatives, State Senator Jennifer McClellan, by an overwhelming margin, 68 to 32%, her Republican challenger. And Malcolm X's daughters, Ilyasa and Kabila Shabazz, are going to sue the FBI, the CIA, and the NYPD, among others, for $100 million for their role in the assassination of Malcolm X. Those are just some of the headlines on the Santita Jackson Show. Everybody, you know, we are looking for real change in our financial system. We need the money. We need to be able to sell our homes. We need to be able to buy some homes. And I want you to reach out to Team Hochberg so that you can do just that. If you are selling your home or purchasing a new home and would like to save thousands of dollars, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. They are offering their Perks at Work program. It's a benefit that's going to last through the end of April, which can save you thousands of dollars the next time you buy your home or sell your home. This is how it works. When a Team Hochberg affiliated realtor sells your home, they'll reduce their fee up to 1%. That's thousands of dollars, everybody. When a Team Hochberg affiliated realtor helps you to purchase a home, you will receive up to 1% of their commission as a closing cost credit. That's thousands of dollars. Team Hochberg will credit their loan origination fee, and their affiliated attorney will reduce their fee. Thousands of dollars. There's one couple that actually saved close to $9,000 using this Perks at Work program when they sold their home and when they purchased a new one. That could be you, everybody. And I hope that it is. I want you to call them at 855-56-DAVID, 855-56-DAVID, or visit 56david.com. Look up the Perks at Work program. You can benefit. You can be a winner too in this housing market. I have someone with me today, someone for whom I have great admiration and respect. She has brought just freshness and really a very genteel excitement to the race. Someone who appears to be the grown woman in the room, a mother, a grandmother, a wife, a member of the community, someone who decided to offer herself up for public service. And she became the alderwoman for the 4th Ward. Extending to various parts of the city. Indeed, as she has run for mayor, she said, you know what? I'm based in an affluent community, but I want to serve all of the communities. I'm looking at Chicago, which on paper is the most segregated big city in the United States, and I want to serve all of Chicago, not just the segregated parts. We welcome to the show um, Alderwoman Sophia King. It's wonderful having you on the show, Alderwoman King.
It is my pleasure, Santita, to be here this morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, just tell me, your plate is so full in life. When you ran to become the alderwoman, I said, "Wow, Sophia, okay." Because to fully disclose, we've known each other a long time. She's married to someone who I grew up around the corner from. So I go back a half a century and then some with her husband. So let's just get that out of the way. That having been said, now you're running for mayor. What prompted you to run for mayor? I mean, why would you take on such a task?
Well, thank you for asking. I think there are a number of reasons. I think I can help, obviously. And, I love this city. But we're at a pivotal point where I think that in a crisis, quite frankly, and I understand that really more than anyone as a city councilman who, has a perch that's really close to kind of understanding what's going on. But, crime is out of control, tensions are high. There's so many groups at odds with this administration, the teachers, the police, my colleagues are speaking with their feet. There's just a lot of things, and we need, and the people of Chicago want and need stability. We're losing institutional knowledge from the executive branch, the legislative branch. The city needs leadership, someone that can bring us together. I've been leading with collaboration over the last 6.5 years, bringing us things like, the $15 minimum wage hike, which, I led that effort, bringing activists and adversaries to the table and bringing landmark legislation to the city of Chicago. And really, then the rest of the country picked up, and now we understand that, $15 isn't even enough, but it brought 400,000 mainly Black and brown women out of poverty, 100,000 into a livable wage. So we know we can do things like that if we really bring people to the table and show them that, working and bringing people into a livable wage helps everybody in our city. Also leading the Michael Reese development, one of more striking developments in the city of Chicago. You obviously have the Obama Library, which will be a very striking development. The 78 Lincoln Yards. We're the only development that didn't have dissension. Again, we brought people into a room, a lot of stakeholders in and out of the community, found out what the community needed and wanted, and worked with the developer to have what the New York Times is calling one of the most equitable developments in the country, with a $25 million commitment to schools, a 20% commitment to affordable housing on site, and a 60% commitment to minority participation, especially African Americans, because it's right in the African American community. We're calling it Bronzeville Lakefront now because of where it's situated. But I also said, it's time that we had a mayor that represented the entire city, and not just segregated parts of that. And what I mean is that there are a number of candidates who offer, perhaps candidacy that represents only a segment of Chicago. And Chicago celebrates great diversity. It's one of the great things about the city. We need somebody, who can represent the entire city. Right now, I represent a microcosm of the city. I represent from downtown, which my ward has probably most of the really nice amenities, whether it's Grant Park or Northerly Island or Soldier Field or Museum Campus. I have 5 times as much lakefront because I go from downtown Jackson Street all the way to Hyde Park and 53rd Street, and I have Bronzeville in the middle.
So I have some of the most under-resourced areas and some of the most resourced areas in the city. I probably have more CHA, HUD buildings, senior buildings, my ward than anyone else. So more affordable housing, more CHA housing. And so I really understand the mechanics and the complexity of how to represent a really diverse ward. But you'll find in my ward, whether it's downtown or Bronzeville or Hyde Park, planes are flying. Things are moving. People are working. There's true equity in my development. We've got billions of dollars of development in the Fourth Ward, and our floor for minority participation, unlike the city, is really above 40%. I had a $40 million building, Bronzeville, or 4400 Grove, where Bronzeville Winery is located, that almost had 89% of minority participation, 69% African American. You have had a bank that had 100% participation for African American. A couple other buildings that had over 40% minority participation, while the city's floor is 26, and they barely hit that sometimes. I understand how to bring true equity, and like I said, all boats are rising. So we need somebody who really understands, how to represent the entire city. That our diversity is our strength. That we need to uplift that diversity, bring us together as a city. I'd be remiss not to recognize what a difficult time it has been to lead. With social unrest. With a global pandemic, this is one of the hardest times to lead, and so I understand what the current mayor is up against. What I think she failed to do, and I still work with her to help. In the beginning, I was rooting for her. A lot of people were trying to work with her, but what she missed is the ability to bring us all together in a crisis. When you're in a crisis, when your family, when someone dies in your family, when things go wrong, you come together and you stop, sweating the small stuff. She didn't do that. She continued to fight and continues over every little thing. And as a public servant who are serving people, it gets tiring. And like I said, you've got 16 of my colleagues who are deciding to leave. With that instability, we need somebody that understands, how the sausage is made, who's, has a track record of really bringing people together and getting things done. And that's what I'm offering. I'm offering, my help to be able to bring us together as a city during this time, to move us together as one in order to get things done.
Well, let me ask you this. Why is it important to you to have these mixed income, mixed communities, these not just diversity in terms of phenotype and color, but you believe that it's important to have different people of different income levels in a community. And everybody doesn't feel that way. I mean, because you've done this economic development without displacing people. I mean, that certainly as people are being displaced, that is not what you've been doing. And that, I think that's fascinating. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I think there's a way where, gentrification means different things to different people. Sometimes negative, sometimes positive. I've been trying to find the positives of that, meaning how can people age in place? How can our elders and people who have lived in a community during economic downturns and let's just say bad times, quote unquote, still be in those communities when all of the amenities and economic upside come to that community? And we can do that. You have to be strategic about it because, some of those things that segregated us, that that separated us, like redlining and other economic tools, were done intentionally. So inequity did not happen in a vacuum. We have to be equal and intentional to match that inequity that was done on purpose. So you have to think ahead and be strategic. There are ways where we can have those economic upturns in communities and not displace people in the community. And that's what we were doing and we're doing with Michael Reese, and why it's being heralded as one of the most equitable developments in the country. We can still bring, my ward, like I said, has some of the most CHA buildings, plan for transformation sites, also under-resourced parts of the city, but yet, we still are saying there's a need for affordable housing. We're not saying that in our backyard. There's room for everything. I think the mixture brings a vitality and a thriving neighborhood where everyone can lead. Don't get me wrong, there are parts of our city that are culturally more monolithic, and that's okay too. I think that where it becomes a problem is when people are purposely kept out of communities, but there are communities that are culturally rich with a particular demographic. It's beautiful to go to those parts of the city and see those folks. I want them to thrive, and I want them to have thriving neighborhoods. But it's also good to have that economic mixture where you have people, who aren't making enough or a lot of money living with folks who are. I've seen those mixtures do well as well. And I have lots of parts of our community where that's the case, whether it's in Grand Boulevard or whether, it's in Douglas or whether it's in North Kenwood, Oakland, where you've got mixtures of CHA homes as well as market housing and affordable housing, and those are some thriving parts of my ward, and I think we can bring those types of efforts to other parts of the city where we don't get, where we see a lot of vacant lots, where we don't have thriving businesses and communities. And I, again, am uniquely positioned to bring those types of developments to other parts of the city because we're doing it, here right now in the fourth ward, like I said, which is kind of a microcosm of the city with its diversity economically and demographically.
Oh, it's an absolute microcosm. I've got about 5 minutes left here, and I want to give you the runway to talk about this because everyone, the corporate media have shaped the campaign and they have made crime number one. And yet you have an intersectional approach. You're like, wait a minute, we've got to look at these issues holistically, because you've made a connection between the lack of educational opportunities as we've closed so many of our public schools, as we have restricted access to vocational education, and the like. I'd like you to speak to a holistic approach to not just ending crime, but establishing peace and prosperity for Chicagoans.
That's a great way to put it. So, I because of, again, my experience, I have a holistic approach to safety. One of them is, we've got folks who are talking about defunding police. We've got folks who are talking about law and order. Most of us understand that we can uplift our police and hold them accountable, which I talk about, that we can have safety and justice, that our police are part of our community. And I went to a Noble bowling event. Noble is a national organization for Black law enforcement. No one had uniforms on. They look like us. They're part of our community. They are, and they should be treated as such. Are there bad police? Certainly, and we need to hold them accountable. But I think police are part of our plan. So we have a plan to bring police into all of our communities. It's something we can do, by moving to a 4-day on, 3-day off, giving police the rest
the mental health care that they need as well to serve us better. And we can do that right away by going from, we currently do 3 shifts, but moving to 2 shifts. So in a 3-shift district, if you've got 90 officers in your district, you would have 30 officers on each shift. For 2 shifts, you would have 45 officers. So that's the 50% more presence in all of our communities at once. Also want to bring back retired officers during surge opportunities. Places like New York have 4,000 retired officers. They already have benefits. They already have, their pension, health care. And so we can bring them back part-time to serve versus detectives, because we have some of the lowest clearance rates in the country, unfortunately, and how we solve crime, especially in areas in African American and Latino areas, crimes are solved even less. So we need to bring them back. But we can also put them on our CPA platforms. We can also have them, working festivals, so we don't pull officers out. So we could do that from a police standpoint right away. More officers in all of our communities, especially the ones that aren't being served. We know that statistics, as well as University of Chicago and other research shows that officers are not in the places where crime is highest. That is really unfortunate. The police aren't the only solution. We also have to look at violence intervention. Violence intervention, our plan calls for putting hundreds of millions of dollars into violence intervention so that we can offer folks another pathway. This is something that we're calling targeted intervention. Places like Boston have done this successfully, where we locate folks who are likely to be involved in crime and offer them a better way through incentives, monetary incentives, $600 a week to come off the streets. And that comes with responsibilities, job training, trauma-informed care, wraparound services from the community. So using our clergy to sit down with these folks, using our commanders and other folks and the community to say, listen, here's a better way. Also, our alternative response.
I've got about 20 seconds.
Over 50% of calls are to police or 911 are for your homeless insecurities, for your mental health insecurities. We need to do that. And then, as you said, educational approach. We have so many folks who are disengaged. K through 12, we should be engaging our kids. We should also bring back the trade and tech to our schools, 11th and 12th grade. We took them out. We took them to the suburbs on purpose. We need to leverage the 5th floor to put trade and tech back to our schools in a meaningful way so that folks know that they can prepare for jobs that make a lot of money, that can make sure that they are livable wages and earn money other ways other than going to college. So that's kind of the comprehensive approach, engaging our youth, making sure that they are engaged, making sure, that we have a comprehensive approach to safety. And through that, we can, we'll see and put a dent in this issue around safety, so we're not back here in 20 years.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? Because I've got a hard break that I'm smashing through, because I think that you're offering so much. What I'm going to do, before the election, I'm going to convene as many of you as I can and give you just 10 minutes just to say what you need to say. Because I think people need to hear more about this. I mean, because you're not doing lock them up. You're saying, wait a minute, let's bring them in. And we need to hear more of that. No, thank you for that. And, and just, I know.
Thank you for the time.
No, I thank you. No, I'm going to have you back. I'm just going to have to, Robin Robinson's going to have to wedge you in. What we're going to have to do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I want people to hear more of this.
Getting us all in and allowing us. I think it's super important who we choose as the next mayor. And like I said, I am uniquely situated as somebody who understands how the sausage is made. We don't need somebody flying the plane and building it at the same time. Again, we did that. It's not working out well for us. Again, we don't need to submit folks who are on the fringe messages, the funding the police, law and order. Those are a small percentage of folks who are controlling our narrative. We cannot continue to allow that to happen. And so I'm offering the experience and somebody who's tried and true. So Plus 2, February 28th for Sophia King.
Alderwoman Sophia King, everybody. She'll be back before you get a chance to vote for the final day on February 28th, everybody. It's the voting season, so get on out there and vote. Thank you, Alderwoman King. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Coming up, Dr. Willie Wilson, blessings to you. Back in just a moment. Oh, my goodness. Alderwoman King? I think she might. Oh, okay. All right. And we've got to get Dr. Wilson.
I just got him up.
Okay, let me bring up Dr. Wilson. Dr. Wilson?
Should be good now.
Oh, okay. Dr. Wilson?
Yeah.
It's Santita Jackson. How are you? I'm so glad that you're with us now. Are you on speaker?
Let me get it up. I got my name.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Very, very, very good.
Right now.
Oh, look, it's perfect because I want everyone to hear you loud and clear, Dr. Wilson.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah.
And you know, and what we're on Facebook Live, just so that you know. I want you to know that. So, you know, I have no, the mic is always hot. Let me just let you know that, okay? I know.
I have no secret.
Oh, no, I know you don't, but I just think it's important to know because also,
Okay.
you know, it's, you know, sometimes people exchange numbers and I have to stop them and go, oh, wait. Although it's just the two of us. But, you know, when I have Reverend on his show on Sundays, his national show, he'll ask for someone's number and keep pressing until they get it. I'm like, we're on Facebook. No.
Yeah, okay.
Please don't do that. But it's wonderful hearing your voice.
You too.
Wonderful hearing your voice.
Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Oh, no. I mean, look, you can come on my show at any time. Absolutely. You know that. You know that.
Okay.
You always have space on this show. And just think, just 4 years ago,
Thank you.
you and my brother Jonathan were running around trying to get Lori Lightfoot elected. Just wow. Now he's in Congress and you're a top tier mayoral candidate yourself. You can't make this stuff up.
Yeah, well, I thought I just in Chicago making a hell of a mistake, you know?
Well, you know, first I'm going to just start with why you're running, and then we're gonna go from there. Okay?
Okay.
But
Okay.
I thank you.
Well, you know.
No. We're not here yet. I want to do it when we come back up. But would you let my viewing audience know how they can connect with you? What is your website?
WillieWilson.com. ElectWillieWilson.com. Sorry.
Okay, electwilliewilson.com, everybody. Electwilliewilson.com. Electwilliewilson.com. Don't forget that, everybody. Electwilliewilson.com. Would you all, L. Stanley Davis or Dave or Hannah, somebody, please put that up there. Electwilliewilson.com. Please put that on Facebook and on YouTube so that people know how to get in touch with Dr. Willie Wilson. Okay? So thank you so much for making the time for us. And I'm so glad that things have settled out for me so that I could be here because I wanted to be able to speak with you myself. So here we go. We're about to come up. Thank you, Jewel. And Jewel's up in New York, but that's all right. We're one family here. ElectWillieWilson.com. Thank you so much, Jewel. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, L. Stanley Davis. Everybody, thank you all so much. Thank you. So that they can put you out there. So stand by.
Okay.
Okay, Henry, how much time? Henry, how much time?
Yes. We are about to come back in 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. It is election season, everybody. On Tuesday, we will elect a new mayor, or we will be heading toward a runoff. But one of the top tier candidates, someone who sparked a lot of conversation down through the years, and he was campaigning for Lori Lightfoot 4 years ago, and now he's a top tier candidate himself. You cannot make this up. You, of course, down through the years, we've seen him praising God on his wonderful musical show, Sing Station, wonderful gospel show, kind of picking up where Jubilee Showcase left off. And we've seen him giving out gas cards and grocery cards, making sure that the most basic needs of those vulnerable people are met. And there have been questions about that. But people have not questioned the help that it has given them. Indeed, someone who's been very engaged in our community and who's really very important to the community. We're pleased and honored to have Dr. Willie Wilson on with us today. How are you, Dr. Wilson? And just let me get right to it. Why are you running? You're a multimillionaire. You're an entrepreneur. You're Dr. Willie Wilson. You could be resting on your laurels after you have worked your way out of Louisiana all the way to the top of Chicago. Why are you running for mayor?
Well, first of all, number one issue is crime. Number two is taxes. And the rest of it, you might as well just let folks go there and get crime taken care of first, and then the taxes. But then got another line. The person that we supported years ago just did not work out. And for me to set back, and I was part of, I believe, made a contribution to that person being in office today. I need to go out and try to straighten it out. And then the other reason too is that I'm not running to put any money in my pocket or showing favoritism to a particular party, whether you talk about Democratic. I'm for the people. I'm not running for a paycheck. I'm doing it free of charge. Some of these aldermen and mayor people are still running for office while they're still getting paid, while people can't even go to the store and buy eggs. I'm just not that way. So I got to get out and try to do something about it, and help myself, and then just try to deal with it. I have no other interest in Chicago but to help Chicago and citizens.
We're talking with Dr. Willie Wilson, 773-763-9278. But, we want to get as much information from him about this run as we can, because he sparked a lot of conversation. Of course, the corporate media have shed light. They have said, look, crime is what is most important to Chicagoans. And yet many Black Chicagoans say, well, wait a minute, we've always lived with crime. Now it's hit white areas, and so it's become the number one concern. But we're concerned about education. We're concerned that the vocational programs have been taken from our schools, so the pathway to these solidly middle-class jobs, our children don't have access to them. And on it has gone. So I need you to talk to me about the role of crime in your campaign. Indeed, you've been talking about some things that you'd like to see happen on the police department, eliminating the entrance exam to bring more people onto the police force. So if you could speak to that, because you want to expand the police, and that makes many people who are part of your base a little anxious.
Well, look, first of all, back to Jackson, I would never ever turn my back against a police officer. I would never ever do that. Those are people from our own community, whether you white, black, Latino, Asian, etc., etc. Those are people like their father, their mother, their brother, their sister. They're from our community. They're from diverse communities. Chicago is a diverse city with a lot of citizens. We have to now begin to bring us together, but not separate us. And so now everybody has to be held accountable, whether you're a regular citizen or a police officer. I think everybody knows that. But for a person to get out of line and law and order, then what do you got? You got nothing. So my suggestion would be, I would come in, we'll do, right now we got one superintendent of police. I'd say we'd be bringing 4. And we divide the city into 4 different segment parts. Then we take from there and hold them accountable. They hold a monthly CAP meeting with the community, with the politicians, with the police department, and you can get to the community much more closer that way. You got to take some of these rules and regulations off them, that you cannot chase a person by foot or car if they run, because that's encouraged other people to continue to commit crime. You know, we got to take those rules and we use common sense approach in the whole situation. We got to give policemen their off days. You know, we got to make sure they're paid real well. We got to make sure they're heroes. They're the one that protects us. They're the one when we get in trouble, we dial 911. You know, they're other people. We would take out the restriction that the police officer, got fired when they didn't take the COVID shot. We'd take that off. Let them go home if they got the COVID, and then test negative, and then come back to work. These people go out every day and risk their lives for all of us. You know, then we'll take and making sure that we have fitness and helpness screaming that every week when you come in at the end of the week, they can go into the doctor, get physical checkup, and make sure that we can kind of cut down the suicide situation. Sure. You know, making sure that is taken care of. They need to know that we got their back covered for them to get out and do a job. Right now, the police officer goes out and can't do a job and somebody get hurt, they're afraid that they're gonna get locked up themselves, and they got livelihood, they got their family to take care of. How can you do your job when you're afraid?
Well,
we have to revisit that whole situation.
Well,
that's why we would have these CAP meetings for the superintendent, so we can open the line, we can communicate together and get this thing done and under control. But every line must be held accountable.
Yes.
And that is how I really see it. We always will have the community involved, and the police involved, and the politicians involved, so we can get a hold of this whole situation.
Well,
nobody else can go out here and commit a crime and go down and kill somebody else, and next month they do the same thing and they never get caught.
Well, I ask you. Well, Dr. Wilson, I'm following this line of questioning, mindful of this fact, and really trying to be sensitive to the fact that you've experienced a personal tragedy that, my own parents said, no parent ever wants to have to face. That is the death of a child when your own son was killed in 1995. And certainly our prayers and thoughts stay with you and your family, because it's something that you live with every single day. And certainly the police, we call the police more than anyone. That is in the Black community, we do. And yet when they arrive, we are frightened to death. We want the police to have our backs. We just don't want them on our backs. I think the fear is, while you want the police to be protected, far too often we feel that we need protection from the police. Because remember, we've had Holman Square here, which was modeled on CIA black sites. You do have Anjanette, you do have George Floyd, you do have all of these cases in which police have routinely overstepped decency, the lines of decency, and they have, and is there a way for the social contract that exists between the police and the citizens? We've seen what you're going to do for the police. Now talk to us about what you will do for citizens so that we can feel protected. Because the police can't have their authority if we don't trust them, right? So can you please give us your perspective? Look at from this side of the line. Help me with that.
Well, first of all, you got to understand that the person that you're talking to now, I'm from the days when you saw this in Jim Crow days, all right? I've been through the era of the civil rights, these young men and young ladies out here that others running for office, others are not running for office, they can talk about Jim Crow days or what they heard or read about. I have experienced it. Yeah. So there's a big difference there. All right. Look, with what is going on here, we have to make sure that we invest into the root of the problem. I've always have said is that from a economic situation, that with those particular areas, those people must have, we pass from, let's say, you pass from the first grade all the way to the 12th grade, that they must have trade before you can pass from one grade to the next grade. You must have that in order to establish it. There's about, 12 or 15 areas that is where we get all these crimes and things like that at. I'm the only person that I know of that invests millions and millions of dollars into our community that I know of, while other people talk about it but giving themselves raises. The alderman, the mayor, and things like that. Giving themselves raises. I've been giving the last 30, 40 to 50 years or 35 years. We're giving away over $60 to $70 million to the community. This ain't just started, But not only do it in Chicago, we do it around the country as well. And even overseas, we do that. All right. So my record speaks for itself. Everything that I talk about is on internet. It's documented. It's seen. Just because I'm running for office, people are taking, try to make another big deal out of it. The homeless people out there. You got to put the infrastructure in place for that. And you start by the school. You start by making sure that there's equal opportunity and equality for every citizen. And you let it reflect the taxpayer base out here, and then get the training and everything in place so that every people can, all of us, including myself, can take and expand knowing what to do. To give you a prime example, if you're working construction out here, you should be able to not just wave a flag on it and drive traffic by making $20 per hour, but you can drive the heavy duty equipment if you train and make $200 an hour or $100 an hour. That is economic right there. All right. But you can also take the CTA. Let's use that for example. You can put the trade school in the CTA and let people build those buses and the mechanic work for those who want to do it, and come out and develop a trade with those buses and then get a good job doing mechanic work or end up getting a contract. That is empowerment. You can take the Chicago Housing Authority where people do landscape, people lay tile in the ceiling. You could take that and put a trade school within that infrastructure that already exists and make sure that happens. But the thing that you have to watch for, I have to be careful with this here, is that all of our young men and young ladies, regardless of what color you happen to be, because I got to tell you something. I'm sick of this today, as we talk about the racist situation between the people. We have to get in and stop talking about it and do something about it. That's why I help everybody. All right. So taking these issues here that we have right now today, we must take them, prepare them to do business also in the state of Illinois, around the United States, plus international too. International business is important. All right. The small business must be able to get a piece of that pie as well, international. So when a particular mayor leave out of office, or don't get voted back in there again, then you ain't got to close down your business. You have other businesses outside of Chicago that you still can survive. I know how to do that. I'm a business person. Nobody else in this group is a business person. Don't have not one clue how they can deal with it. They can talk it, but they already in city hall or city council, whatever it may be, and they just talk that talk, got no experience, and they keep raising taxes on us.
And people are looking for, and you have proved, just coming from, your own journey shows just amazing grit and, and what having the opportunity to expand economically can do, because many entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs, or just first people who would have access to the money in this city don't have access to it because the application process is onerous, and that's just on and on it goes. But I have to go back to the police because that has been the orientation, Dr. Wilson, of this campaign. And we need economic development, and we need to hear more from you as you talk about economic development, because you're among the few who've talked to us about getting our kids having a pathway, a bridge between school and jobs for our children. I mean, because there was a time when you used to be able to get vocational education and go get a job and get it, but the unions have blocked us too. And that's something else we've got to deal with. But you did make a comment that people that took a lot of your supporters were taken aback. And I know because they would call me and they would send me notes when you said you want to hunt down the criminals like rabbits. Certainly, we do not want to see crime in our neighborhoods. We don't want to see it. We don't want to be the victims of it. But we don't want the police to have open season on us either. So my question is, while we're protecting the police and when they make mistakes, they shouldn't have to, you're saying that, look, if they make a mistake, they need to be forgiven. But when they are willfully in error, that is to say, when you have a Laquan McDonald, when you have a John Burge, I mean, because that's part of our history too. What are the checks on the police that you would institute?
Well, let me first, before I answer, clear this up for you here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I said. I meant that anybody who kills another person and who go down next week or next month and kill another person or rape a person or take them, do them like they did my one particular son, killed him, almost killed all four of my kids, all right? But the next door neighbor down the street, these people are still walking around and never getting caught. I said you should hunt them down like a rabbit, get caught. And I still meant that, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to put it in the right content here.
Sure.
Those people who kills another person, those persons who harm an innocent person out here, those parents out there got to go like I did to the cemetery and watch their loved one go down into the grave and then do nothing. All right? So we have to take that, do that. Now, the record shows is that I care about the community. I don't even have to really necessarily talk on that much. I mean, look, we give 100% of everything away. So we got to protect our police officer. We got to protect the community. Everybody has to be held accountable. But ain't no way I'm going to back up after supporting our police officer.
But Dr. Wilson, that's not.
Take that word back.
Oh, no. I'm not. And certainly I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you, in addition to, because this is, as you know better than anyone, in politics, like in business and in life, it's a game of addition, not subtraction, right? Unless it's sin, of course. What you want to do is find out, you've told me what you're going to do to really to protect the police. Their suicide rates of domestic violence, the personal problems that they have are profound, and they need help. There's no question about that. But so do people. People need wraparound services. People don't necessarily need police intervention. They might need a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a social worker on site. And we certainly need to know that we will not have to deal with blue flu, which is what we had to deal with behind George Floyd, because police said, well, look, I put my neck on a guy, choked him to death, 9.5 minutes. And, we need that protection too. And I want to give you the opportunity to speak to that, because absolutely our police need to be protected. And absolutely, so do the citizens. How do we protect citizens as we seek to protect police? I've got a couple of minutes, and if you don't mind, could you stay with me just for a couple of minutes on Facebook Live, so that I can give you a chance to say even more? But please, you've got the last 2 minutes of the show.
Yeah. Well, we'll protect the community like we always do. Protect the community now when nobody else is there. I'm there. We'll expand economic development and to those community economic empowerment to those communities, and we won't talk about it. We won't take and put money in our pocket and try to benefit unless we take and help the community first. You have to make sure you open up those mental health institute. You got to empower your churches. You can have mental health institute programs within those churches. You can have training within those churches to empower those communities. You can come together every month and talk to the police officer, and then have cap meeting the community and make sure we work on this thing together. One person cannot solve the problem by itself. Mm-hmm. You know, everybody must be held accountable. Whether you're a police officer, individual, must be held accountable themselves to do this whole thing. It's about communication. It's about talking together and pulling up together and working at it. We'll make all those efforts. We'll get input from the community as well. As they're putting in things like we put in place now for business, a worldwide business that we put in places. If I can do it and Randy home at age 13, 7th grade education, be where I'm at today, we can do this right here now.
Well, we've been talking with Dr. Willie Wilson. It's electwilliewilson.com, electwilliewilson.com. Dr. Wilson, can you stay with me for a couple more minutes? Because I want you to be able to.
No problem at all.
Okay, thank you so much. And you know what? If you all want to, call in very quickly, 773-763-9278, 773-763-9278. As we are absent from WCPT 820's airwaves, we're not absent from you. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson Show on YouTube and that channel and the Santita Jackson and Friends page. And I'm also streaming on Reverend Jesse Jackson's page. We're talking with Dr. Willie Wilson about his plans for Chicago. He's talked about economic development. He's talked about the police. He's talked about what he really wants to do for Chicago. And I want to know what your thoughts are, everybody. I want to know what your thoughts are. And we're so grateful that someone who could be sitting down and really living life in a very different way, you've decided to serve the people. I say that about Alderwoman Sophia King as well. I mean, these are people who really don't have to do this, and yet they feel that they can't afford not to do it. And so we thank you, Dr. Wilson, for every gas card, every grocery card you've given out. You've served people in need, and we thank God for you. Stay right here, everybody. I'm going to ask some more questions of Dr. Willie Wilson. See you in the morning. Dr. Wilson, because I wanted you to be able to speak, because I'm also reading the comments. So I'm trying to respond to, got to put on my glasses, Dr. Wilson. That's what happens after 40. Oh my gosh. I got to put on these glasses so I can make sure I'm reading the right thing. But people are very concerned about the police. You want the police to have your back. You just don't want them on your back, right? And Chaparral said, how do we protect citizens from the police? What's happening to us by police is real. It's not a figment of our imagination. Daryl says you need to be more firm about holding police officers accountable, just like you want, just like you don't want private citizens to do wrong. We don't want the police to do wrong. I'm just going through some of these questions, because people, we're living in an America, Dr. Wilson, in which, please, I'm afraid to have my brothers and my nephews. 2 of them can drive, and I have about 4 others who are going to be able to drive soon. 3 can drive, and 4 others are going to be able to drive soon. I'm afraid for them, and I'm afraid for my brothers to be pulled over by the police. I mean, it's just, this is where we are. And so the question is, what can be done to sensitize, to work with the police so that there can be mutual trust? Because right now we have an us versus them. You still don't have enough Black police officers. You certainly don't have enough police officers who have a community orientation. Can you speak to that, Dr. Wilson?
You gotta put, you gotta put my whole situation to look at. I didn't get a chance to cover all of my points that's there, but you gotta integrate these police cars. And they got 4 police cars. They got made up of different nationalities in order you can communicate to the community more better as well. You know, look, the crime situation is a big, big, big deal. All right. I don't have to explain myself how much I care about the community.
Mm-hmm.
You look it up and you go back 40, 50 years. And I don't see nobody out there going to, even the very billionaire people out here doing what we're doing for the community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm talking about the down to earth community, that people who's down there. I look, the police have to have accountable, the people have to have accountable as well. And then right now, the people in the community are taking in, killing innocent people from the community. That, you know, and got the innocent people in the community are running scared. Got the police officers afraid to do anything as well. All right? So you got to bridge the gap and things. I do think it's an economic development, economic empowerment, business-wise, to make sure that those particular communities, those investments, will stop a lot of crime. Because if you quit crime on money, then you empower those communities, and it'll go away. But you got to get out here, work hard, and make it happen like I made it happen out here. You know, mm-hmm. I'm not down in the community. I put my money where my mouth is in terms of the community. You know, and you got people in City Hall got no position and too afraid to move all that red tape stuff and keep people from getting contracts. You know, let them contracts up and get those things taken care of.
Well, no, speak to that. Dr. Wilson, please speak to that, because I know so many entrepreneurs who are very qualified, who do great work, who say, wait a minute, trying to get a city contract is like, my goodness, it's impossible. Would you remove any of those barriers? And if so, which ones? How could you streamline the process so that you could make it easier to get more people who could get these city contracts?
Well, right now, it took me 12 years to, I'm literally now, 12 years to be ready with the city of Chicago in my business. Well, I do business with the Fortune 500, local, national, and international around the world. It took me 12 years to get a contract. I didn't get the contract. I got the registration for the city, but then after I got that, then they said that I made too much money, you know, and then they abolish it. You know, I would abolish that red tape thing. You know, I will let you, the other major corporation comes into the particular city hall. They ain't got to fill out all that red tape and everything. You know, give them a fixed contract. If they partnership with a major corporation, then those tax dollars get to them. Let them partnership up with until they get on their feet. Make sure you use your leverage with the bank, that you're putting money into the bank, and make sure they got the program together by equal opportunity for all citizens. Otherwise, you take the money out of there and put it into another bank they're going to do business with. That don't work, then you set those tax dollars aside, make sure you get a grant, and then you succeed, and then you pay it back once you become successful. Then you put a net around the people that they may be failing, you can catch them, and then you can keep them from failing. You know, but I would remove all that stuff, and those tax dollars that go into other communities and don't get back to certain communities, I would remove every bit of it. You know, you won't have to prove yourself whether you are African American or Latin American or Asian American. You don't have to prove yourself nothing. You are a human being. You go in and you get your business, and you set those grants up and put those dollars over there so that you can do it. But you need more than that. You need a partnership with major corporations that has to trade, that has to understand it, that got the buying power, that do business with the city of Chicago down here, and that they can expand them, and you can flourish with them. That's how I got in business. You know, we work in business. I worked for flipping hamburgers and mopping floor with McDonald's. But McDonald's certainly made it possible that I could go worldwide, international with the business. And after a year or two, I was able to get on my own.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know.
So I know how to do all of that.
Okay. Well, so what would you do about vocational education and unions who still obstruct the entrance of Black people in particular, Black and brown people, but Black people especially, into these unions. These are great middle class jobs and upper middle class jobs uh, that increasingly we have less access to than we have in generations. Dr. Wilson, I mean,
what has happened is here is that the politicians are giving their union card launch. You know, when you vote for them, you put money behind them. They get the first right and say, hey, you got to come to the union or to get a job. You know, we have to say, put the equal opportunity in there, the clause, and then make sure everybody benefits from it. The politicians' reason for that. Then there is a serious problem there. You would like the partnership with the union, that they got the craze already, they understand it, and make it happen that way. All right, but that's a whole nother situation you have to deal with. But if you put it into City Hall and making sure it's mandatory that you're going to reflect the taxpayer dollars, and that's the only way it's going to be done, then you start breaking down the variance of it. You know, and then if not, if you ain't don't want to work with you, you set up those people retired, train the people, set the grants up over here, that they go in at their own and make it happen, because this got to stop and will stop. But also it takes someone like myself, in my opinion, that can't be bought. Period.
well, now that does help. That does help when you can walk away. I want you to speak to Mark's question. He had a very interesting experience yesterday, which is not uncommon. He said, yesterday a cop approached my parked car to ask me a question. I'm getting a lot of these stories, and this is representative, Dr. Wilson, of what is on my chat line now. Yesterday, a cop approached my parked car to ask me a question. Apparently, my car loosely fit a description of one they were looking for. I felt I had to be the one to try to calm this cop down. He was edgy, jumpy, hyped up. Things can go south quickly without warning. You know, when you talked about police officers and the problems that they have, you know, they're dealing with personal issues. They're dealing with, many of them are committing suicide, but many of them are also drug addicted, or they experiment with drugs. And I'm wondering, are they drug tested when they come to work? Because, you know, they're representative of the rest of America. They have problems too, and they over-index in problems. They have more problems than the average, you know, but people who help are also folks who are desperately in need of help. What do you say to Mark? Mark is a professional Black man, married, children. And but it doesn't even matter how so-called respectable you look. I mean, this is what he's had to deal with. And so many have to deal with this. You got to try and calm down the police and pray that it works. What will you do with the police? What will you say to the police, Dr. Wilson? Will there be meetings with them so that they too can mend their ways?
Well, you know what? You what I put in that it integrate the cars. For police superintendent meeting on a monthly basis with the separate for the superintendent of police, with the community, the cabinet, and things of that nature. We always do a lot of stuff we put in place. Look, when I go downtown, wherever I live downtown, I live in suburban Beaufort too. But if I'm pulled aside by any police when I'm traveling, or wherever it may be, look, I get nervous too, you know? Mm-hmm. All right, because even if it just for a little bit, you know, I'll get nervous. But look, that's something that has been here for a long time, and we have to continue to work together with that and make those things happen. And remember what I said. I said a person who kills another person, who goes down and kill another person, who never got caught. A person go into somebody's house and rape their kid, rape their wives, their spouses. That's what I said. Mm-hmm. And I meant that, you know. And so I don't want to have people to try, like the mayor tried to twist it into like another thing. It is a person that, you know, running around, homicide so high in Chicago, got everybody too slave. We got to stop it. I'm not trying to cover for anybody. Everybody has to be held accountable. We have to get this thing together and work on it and put it together. I'm the best person, only person in leadership here that have experience from all the way from South, all the way up here now, and was able to make it bounce off my experience, all right, to make these things happen. I'm not saying that, look, that there's problem with just the community, problem with the police. I love our community so much, that's why I put so much money into that. You know, so I'm just saying, look, guys, we're going to work this thing out together. You know, I'm the one that went to jail, Cook County Jail, and got a lot of people out there for misdemeanor and nonviolent young people that's sitting in those jails out there for 6 months or a year and ain't even had a court date. I'm the one that paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to get them out. You know? So another thing, these prison systems, you got to put, if you happen to be in there, you got to put trade in the prison system. So when you get out, you got to trade, they can get a job, you know, and not go back in there. Because a lot of them tell me they get out of jail, you know, they ain't got a job. So when I got them out of jail, I gave them all money in their pocket to get food, get place, something to eat, you know. But these politicians ain't done nothing like that. And they don't even think of nothing about it like that, but their own self will give them all some raises and stuff. You know, I know who I am, and I know where I come from, and I know the need and the flight out here. But I also know that we got to pull people together, work together, to fix this thing together. You know, I also know that I ain't going to take one penny from the city of Chicago or from my neighbor. I'm going to kill, and we're going to fix this problem together.
Well, you know, and I am so appreciative of what you have done and what you are doing, because indeed, Mayor Lightfoot, Congressman Garcia, they have raised some questions about the gas card giveaways, the grocery giveaways. Why don't you speak to that?
Well, we've been here again. I'm not running for mayor like a hurricane. I went down there this last year, 12 months or 13 months ago, and gave $1 million to people in cash. And I went to the senior citizen home, and those senior citizens didn't have food. Those young teenagers didn't even have IDs. So I gave them cash so they can buy food. You know, I used my own money. In Chicago, we got CHA. I go there every 3 months, 4 months, and give over $300,000 or more away. And the mayor stopped that about 3 months ago because of the election and everything, about the vote. Every 3 months, we do that because those senior citizens live about $3 a week for food allowance. Those people are homeless, don't have a penny. We go out there and give $200,000 or $300,000 or more to them to help them. On their feet, we help them. These are people that can't help themselves, you know. And nowhere in the world, I try to take them and then lead them out. I'd rather not have the office of mayor, if that be the case, than to see somebody out there suffer. I'm going to help the person out there suffer first. And so I'm going to do that. Now, the mayor and Chuy Garcia is drawing 2 or 3 pensions. The mayor is giving herself a raise. You know, the mayor is giving everybody else contract. The contract for the African community is no better than what it was under Ron Emanuel and our administration. You know, now she may go and give a few people a little bit here and there to try to get back re-election, but Chicago ain't fool about that stuff.
Well, how can you change that? I mean, how can you? Well, how would you open up the process so that more Black people, more brown people would have access to more of the riches of this city? Because these city contracts, I mean, please, Boeing is basically a subsidiary of the federal government. I mean, they, much of their income is derived from federal contracts, and many of the wealthiest wealthiest corporations in this city get big city contracts. What can you do to open up the doors of opportunity so that more Black and brown businesses can get in the door and make some of this money and serve the community and utilize their gifts?
Well, look at my past record. Why would I be doing this? Look at my past record. I am a bona fide business person.
Mm-hmm.
And the money I make, I give and help and support small businesses, help them get in business, help people start businesses. Oh, now, yeah. Okay, I am a bona fide business person. I'm a person that give. All I do is give, and all I do is help.
Mm-hmm.
I understand business. We erase that all that red tape and stuff. You will get business on my administration. We got to work. If that 30% or 35% African Americans in Chicago, we're gonna put things in place to get there. You will get there. I can promise you that, because there's no other reason for me to want this job.
Well, let me ask you this.
How to do it. They want people to know.
Okay, because people want to know if they will have greater access to these contracts, because the process of getting contracts is just, it is so cumbersome. People, I mean, what'd you say? It took you 12 years. I mean, goodness, most people don't have 12 years. They don't have it. They don't have it. But people keep coming back to the police. What will you do as we're taking care of the police to make sure that they feel respected and protected? What will you do with the people to make sure that they feel respected and protected? It's a two-way street. And Dr. Wilson, I am mindful, and I mean this with all of my heart. I am so grateful every time my brothers, my sister, and I remark on the fact that we can go see both of our parents. We can go be with them, and we can be with each other, and that God has allowed up to this moment for our circle to remain unbroken. That means so much, Dr. Wilson. It means so much for, even when we are driving each other crazy, to be able to be together on Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, and just to be able to call people today means so much. And so I can only imagine what you go through as you think about your son and the life that could have been, that should have been. But we also want to be careful not to make our personal pain public policy. You know, you want to use your personal pain to make life better. I mean, I think part of what drives my father is the exclusion he felt all of his life, and my mother too. But my father in particular, having to look over the fence at his dad, not to be able to stay in the house with him. You know, we all have something that can drive us into, to higher heights. What can you do, having come out of the Jim Crow system, basically American apartheid, having come from the sharecropping South to really the top of American business, and having one of the highest profiles in one of the biggest and most prestigious cities in the world? You're someone who's beloved and who's respected. What can you convey to the police so that we can feel that should you be elected to office, that we will have someone who will place equal weight with the protection of the citizens, as that you will put equal weight with the protection of the police and the protection of the citizens? What will you do to help the citizens? I mean, you're a philanthropist, that's established. You're a very successful businessman, that's established. And you want the police to be able to do their job, even as will you help them to not cook? Will you tell them you can't do blue flu, not taking care of you, but blue flu you cannot do? You cannot go into someone's home while a woman is half naked in her home and all of you sit there and take pictures of her. You can't do that.
There was a tragedy right there. That's to what happened. Look, I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to lie to anyone, is that you're going to be better off with me than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And nobody can question how I feel about the community, period. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That's for themselves a favoritism, and everybody else is already. You look at all the people running right now, pretty much they're bought. They already got money and somebody that bought them. I don't let nobody buy me. I'm here to serve the people. It takes all of the work to stay together. I don't have all the answers, but one thing I do have, my integrity. always will depend on my faith to get us through and hard work. And I tell you what, and I got common sense. I got a lot of common sense. I'm not gonna let anybody be abused and I do within the structure, the power of the law. But right now, I gotta tell you, right now this community is that we have to stop these young men, young ladies from filling up people that look the same like they and look the same like other people. You got people is out here killing up people, and see, crime has no color. Mm-hmm. All right, you have to stop them from killing. The majority of crime is done pretty much is black crime on black crime. Black and brown people doing it to one another. That's the majority of it right there. All right. So we have to find ways that economic investment take care of that part there. But by the same token is that it's also moving to other communities as well. But look, other communities, there's white people out there commit crime too. It may not be over as this one here, but Latina and other people, Asian people commit crime too. So I think this place here is that forget about the color now. Let's get to the problem. Let's work on the problem. Let's bring us all together. And I've been very successful at that. Let's bring us all together and make this happen. And so, but if I have to say one thing in terms of how I'm going to do this and it's going to be solved, no, this problem is too complex. It's too deep. You got people that done bought politicians that's going to vote a certain way, to protect their best interests. You got to, give you another example. You got the marijuana thing. Look, the people who they lock up for marijuana, now they out of jail. Someone still in jail. They can't even get a license for marijuana. Mm-hmm. And nobody fights for the people. This stuff is deep. And the thing about it, I understand all of that. You got major corporations making billions and billions of dollars out of the community, but I think just the other day, one black folks got the licenses. But outside of that, all the other major corporations, they done got all that business. People that doesn't even look like us. And so see, that's a prime example right there. And the politics ain't said nothing about it, ain't done nothing about it, but they're still sitting there. We have to stop all that stuff. If I was married in that time, ain't no way I allow them things to come in here. Unless it'd have been equal and fairly. And it wouldn't have been about no money either, because we'd make sure they had to deal with it, Yeah. So, but in terms of protection, policemen, the citizen, we have to protect everybody. We just got to find ways to get in there and do it. One thing about me, the community can trust me. They can trust me that I have the best interest. And there ain't going to be a better person in Chicago, or as far as I'm concerned, on earth, they're going to be out there. But only for others. That's why I'm doing the job. And right.
Dr. Wilson, is there anything that you would like to say? Is there any misunderstanding you want to clear up? Is there anything, I don't want you to leave anything on the table.
No, said what I said and I meant what I said. I have people and friends, lost loved one, got killed. I have senior citizens too afraid to go out the house. Like I said, I know senior citizens being raped by young people that don't say nothing. I have people out here, young ladies been raped and don't say nothing. People been killed, they ain't saying nothing. It's sickening, Mm-hmm. And they gotta stop. I love all people. Everybody gonna have to be put together, make the thing work together. If you go out, you vote for somebody. Vote for me, but vote for somebody because the community is smart. They're not dumb. They're smart. When nobody else was out there with face masks, I came to the rescue. I gave away 60 million face masks. I could have made $60 to $100 million off it. Mm-hmm. I gave it away because we didn't have them. Nobody couldn't have them from China with me. I've been sitting on $100 million of them, selling to major corporation. I stopped from selling to major corporation, gave them away. All fit the ward, all across the state, all out in California. I gave it away. Where you're rich, poor, and before or not, I wouldn't charge one penny. And why the mayor and then these people running for mayor office now didn't even lift a penny. Didn't even do nothing. Nothing. If it had to be that people save life and people from COVID in terms of face masks, just think how many people that probably saved that giving away all those face masks to people. Nobody else will even come and say not one word. And then guess what? All the politicians that I know of, particularly the mayor, the governor, didn't even come and say one word. Didn't even come and say thank you. Not one. But I did it for the community, and I continue to do it for community. I will continue to always do it for community because I love community. I love Chicago. I think we got to come together as all of us, white, black, Asian American, Latino American. We're gonna be a better person. We can work together versus separate and get this hate stuff out of the way. It's a hard job to do, but we're gonna make it happen. We're gonna do it. I make no apology. If I'm wrong, I will apologize. We just see things maybe a little bit different, but nobody can question my motive. Things that I've done. There's a record's already out there. You know, I'm all ready to come to Chicago and spend this kind of money. First, my own money. Not using taxpayer dollars. Personal gain. Yeah. And I will continue to do this. I'll continue to care about Chicago. I'll continue to care about all citizens. All citizens. Because I just think that God made us all human beings. And all our blood is red. And if we just got lost in terms of how we done things, but we got to help get it straightened back out some kind of way. At the end of the day, each one of us got to do our own, play our own part in life. And by putting God first. And I believe he'll guide us through. I know for a fact he will. And I will continue to rest my face on that and work hard.
Dr. Willie Wilson, everybody. ElectWillieWilson.com. Dr. Willie Wilson. I just thank you for all that you've done and all the things that have made you who you are. Thank you so much. Thank you just for giving. Thank you for giving. Whether people agree with you completely, disagree with you in part, agree with you completely, no one can doubt your commitment to making this city and our world a better place. And we thank God for you.
Thank God for you too. Appreciate you very much.
I appreciate you.
Hey, Father and Mother, say hello. I love them both.
Oh, and we love you. God bless you. And keep on singing, Sensation.
Amen. We got to get you on that, you know?
You let me know once this is all over. Well, I don't know if mayors do it, but, you know, I promise you I'll come on Sensation and you and I'll do something together.
That'd be outstanding.
I can't wait. I can't wait to do Sensation because I said, now Chicago's the only place where a multimillionaire black businessman is going to get up and praise God. That's what he does with his money here. I love it. I love this place. I said, only Chicago would give someone that kind of space. And only Dr. Wilson would, after doing all this. He just wants to praise the Lord and sing his songs. Praise God. But I'm going to take you up on that invitation. I'll be on invite me to Sensation and I'll be right there.
I sure will. Thank you now.
God bless you. God bless you. And my love to your wife and your beautiful family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, everybody, here we are. I'm looking for, I'm so glad that Dr. Wilson was with us today. So glad. And I'm so glad that you all stuck around and we're going to have Commissioner Brandon Johnson. I'm trying to get Mayor Lightfoot and Congressman Garcia. And then you will have heard from everybody on the Santita Jackson Show. And of course, on election night, Joan Esposito, Patty Vasquez, and I will be anchoring and giving you the latest and the greatest on election night coverage here on WCPT. So here we go. I love you, everybody. Cannot wait to be with you tomorrow morning. What a blessing it is to be with you every single day. I love you, Effie Rolfe. Girl, y'all should have called in, but that's okay. Love you, L. Stanley Davis and Daryl and Robert and Mark and D-Ray. It's okay, you got up. Oh, I don't know if you can order his gospel shows online. You know what? I'll ask him. I'll reach out. And Robert, okay now. George Bliss, hey, hey, hey. I'm Daryl. Excuse me, Dave Dowling and Arlene. I just love you all. I love you all. I hope you know I gotta go now. But I hope I hope that you got something out the show today that was good. I love you, everybody. See you tomorrow.